This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back. In this video today, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin. We're going to be looking at Bitcoin from multiple vantage points. We're going to make sure that everyone has a crystal clear view from multiple vantage points going into tomorrow's CPI event, as well as today's FOMC meeting minutes release. We're also going to take a look at Ethereum. We're going to take a look at what is going on potentially for either the next leg down, what expectations could be, as well as whether or not we're seeing any type of rounding bottom, reversal, bottoming action taking place. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more. Let's get going. Let's start over here looking at Bitcoin on a linear scale and where we've left off yesterday. Watching this breakout, this trendline break that goes, by the way, all the way to the November high, extended all the way down. And what we're seeing happening is a couple of different things. We are seeing that breakout still technically intact. Anyone that chose to put their stop loss over the previous swing low before the breakout, that would have got tagged yesterday. But you see that price has had trouble closing below that. That trade is still intact for all those who have that at the lower low over here. And now still technically still intact. If you would have used the yearly low, that is coming back over to all the way in June. As the breakout occurs, CTM 1.0 would have the stop loss down there. It's around 17,500. This is the way that we architected the trade. I want to go ahead and continue off that. If you remember this sloping trend line, we took the clone trend line off of that prime trend line to get this trend line. And since the market has respected that, even yesterday's price action still respecting that trend line. If we go ahead and clone it, let's see if it gives us any type of edge to see if this current breakout holds. And what are you doing? You could look over here off of these touches and you could say, well, that's intact. That seems a little tight for me. I'm going to go ahead and just run that trend line down off of the top touch over here and just throw it out to you. If you might be waiting now, if maybe you were stopped out over here on the long side, entry over here on the breakout, stop loss, you're now on the sidelines. You don't want to get caught off guard if price does resume out. Now, I know that general expectations are that we're going to make another leg down. It's going to be a big leg. We're going to take a look at that in this video as well. But right now, we're looking at this current positive trendline break that is still technically undergoing and underway. If you did get stopped out of this and you're looking for a re-entry and you're going ahead and you're cloning this trend line, which is a clone trend line over here. Remember that's how we got that trend line, cloning that yellow trend line. And then at this point in time, if you were to go ahead and set it off again and a price were to break above that, would that get you back into the market? Or would you might potentially be even looking for price to resume up, making a higher high? It's around 19,550. If that were to happen, where are you setting your stop loss off of that last low? That's how you'd be managing your risk on that trade. Now, it gets a little tricky because we are coming up into not only today's potential high impact news event of the release of the FOMC meeting minutes. Now, personally, and I don't want to, my own bias is that really nothing new could be introduced. I don't think that the Fed could come off any more hawkish than they already are. And I doubt that they're going to be any type of dovish verbiage in there. So I assume it's going to be a non-event. And I think that tomorrow's CPI, which really no one knows which way it's going to go, that could really be a game changer. I suppose it could be a non-event, but I don't lean that way. And I do think that potentially it could be very whipsaw-ishy and choppy, and that could really cause a lot of pain to a lot of people. So what I'm getting at is a tight stop in this type of situation with tomorrow's news event. I mean, why it could work out in your favor, probably not. Be very careful out there. Let's go ahead and continue over here as we looked at first over on the linear chart right now and potential next moves for anyone who got stopped out, anyone who took the break and set the stop loss off the swing low over here, 18,130. Now, the difference was your position size. You have a position size that's roughly half the size if you use the wider stop loss. If you went with the tighter stop, you probably had a bigger position size. Assuming you were risking the same, let's call it 1 or 2% for the trade, the position size would be different according to how you went ahead and you set your stop loss. Looking at this on the log scale, I think we get a clear view in so much as that what we see developing over here looks potentially, now I see the first thing I see is that this looks like, all right, price breaks below here, and we're going to go ahead and make that next leg down. It does look like that we are seeing, I don't want to say a rounding bottom. I mean, it's running flat. It's running flat on higher volume. If it was running flat on lower volume than normal, that would have a strong reminder of what happened in December 2018. After going sideways for a few months on no volume, price just collapsed 50%. I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, you could see that price is really coiling right now in between this area. This is near-term resistance, near-term support, and it looks like we're going to get a break one way or the other soon. Now, I am reminded of what happened in July, and we keep watching the market like this in July, and you see that trend line break to the downside. That occurred on the CPI morning. That CPI reading was a strong 9.1%, and price started the breakdown and then reversed. That was all within about a half hour of the news release itself. And look, it could happen again on both sides. You could get a weak number, price start breaking up, and then all of a sudden, market participants very quickly start pricing in. Well, that's not going to change the fact that the Fed is going to be likely hiking 75 basis points in just a few weeks in the November meeting. And then you might see price reverse. People might dig deeper into the numbers, and whatever the headline was, might realize that internally we're seeing everything but energy continue to rise. You don't really know how it's going to go. So you have to know your levels in advance, and then you have to really be crystal clear about them and manage your risks off them. However you're looking to trade this, if you are looking to trade this, and by the way, if you're not looking to trade this, obviously you're on the sidelines, whether you're looking at Bitcoin or Ethereum right now, spot, buy side only, you're just on the sidelines and you're sitting pretty, waiting for that next signal. You're going to be sitting this news event tomorrow, the CPI news release, on the sidelines. But if you are trading this, and I think it offers pretty strong opportunity so long as you develop the plan, which is what we're doing now, going into the event tomorrow, you're going to be pretty strongly suited. On the downside, it could work out that as well, just like we saw over here when we saw a price spike down below the trend line and then grab some liquidity and go to the upside. That could happen as well. Expect volatility tomorrow. And then I think that also beware of whipsaws. Just a couple of cautions I want to throw out over there. I wanted to just zoom out back on the linear again and just note the bottoming that took place last summer. If you remember, July into August of 2021, we did see a similar pattern developing. And I just want to point out what price did, a couple of things it did. First of all, here was think of that as the June low right now. And price did come out and take out anyone who had stops down over there, right? And then it came back again, right, over here. And it also traded lower than that area. So, and more importantly, off a closing basis, it traded lower right before putting in the low and then trading up. I think that catches a lot of people off ground. Those that are looking for the sell side and another leg down, it draws them in before, being able to go ahead and then turn around and come up. It's a similar situation that you're seeing right now, in so much as that, let me zoom out. Here's that June low, right? A lot of people right now, rightfully so, looking for an extended breakdown over there, right? If that happens, right? By the way, this line over here at the bottom, I just want you to understand and know what that is. That's coming in, if you go back to the previous cycle all-time high. Now, I know that for a few days, price traded above there. Not too many trades took place in that area. A lot of people do look at the previous cycle all-time high from a price standpoint, rightfully so, is 19,600 or so. But there was very few trades placed in that area. This is really where resistance was found. Resistance found again. And then if you continue forward before the bull market breakout, you could see that's where support was found. That resistance from the previous cycle now turned into support. And you could see that when we capitulated over here off of the 3 hours Celsius debacle, that's where we were still able to find support. Trading below that, things could get very dicey very quick. We'll look at some downside expectations. Let's start by moving forward and moving over to the bullish and the bearish view. And we know that we still see Bitcoin technically holding this trend line break. We see the breakout. We're in for a retest, right? That retest is still undergoing. We're above the trend line still, so technically still in place. Look, the way that I look at this is a legit battle between the bears and the bulls. You can see on the sell side over here, we have a trend line break, and off the trend line break, we have come up into resistance, right? That broken support acting as resistance. Now, we haven't resumed down yet, but you could say that, well, technically a breakdown is in process. Technically, a breakout is in process. And that leaves us with a really legit bull and bear, a battle between the buyers and sellers going on right now, coming into this high impact news event. And it's so high impact because truly the market right now is data dependent. There's no question about it. A surprise either way, CPI inflation comes in stronger than expected or weaker than expected, will have near-term consequences, a lot of volatility, and could really lead to the next leg, whether it is down or up. Be prepared and make sure that you stay on the right side more than ever. I want to take a look at the sell side. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to pull up and just show you. Do you remember this breakdown over here? This was on a Friday, 53,140, and we saw a price collapse roughly 20% on that breakdown. We had a few more. This one over here, I'm going to show you and zoom into them in a little bit. And I'm just trying to point out the breakdowns that occurred on Bitcoin along the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on them with you. And we're going to take a look at them in just a moment. And this was a little bit of a breakdown. It didn't go too far, but it certainly was. And people right now are getting ready and expecting that we might be breaking down soon again. And, you know, if it's somewhere around what we've seen in these past breakdowns, we might be looking at something like, you know, a move down towards 14,000 or so. But what I want to do, and I think is going to offer more value, is just point out a couple of things. I'm going to go ahead and jump on the auto and zooming in over here. I want you to see on this breakdown, right, that occurred. Now, this breakdown is a little different than the rest. We did it off of off of log. I'm just going to show you what that looked like if I move to log, right? Let me just jump in there really quick. And this is the trend line break. The rest of the breakdowns are going to look a little bit different, but you could see that was clean and clear and just waterfall down on the break. The next one's going to be a little bit different. So let me jump into that one over here. And you could see that price was going ahead, and let me now get back onto the trend lines over here. You can see price over there. Once it really broke that trend line, right? Waterfall down again, right? Now it gets a little trickier on the next one. You have this trend line over here. Now, if you're doing it off the close like this, or if you're doing it, you know, like that, I think I like the previous before, you could see that price sucked a lot of people upwards before then waterfalling down. But all three of those breaks thus far have been very clean, as that when they broke down, they just waterfall down. And then let's go ahead and see over here. And again, on this one, you can see that price going sideways for a long time. Similar to how it is right now, they tried to suck the longs in on the upside. You can see that some people might have been actually looking for some type of breakout right over there, sucking them in. And then you could see again, waterfall down. That one over there on the breakdown intraday, you would have saw it breakdown, retest, and then a resumption down. And then again over here. So we're seeing one characteristic really take shape. And I'm going to explain that in 1 second. But you could see on the breakdown, even though you had a retest and then the resumption down, it was clean and clear, right? Let me zoom into real time right now. And before we do, we have one more. So we'll take a look at it. And you could see that on the, well, there you go, I guess. I think that's better, right? That's a clean waterfall down. What we're seeing now is a little different in so much as that we've had a trend line break and price has yet to waterfall down. It's just kind of consolidating right above that broken support. It's consolidating right above that resistance. Well, I didn't expect that, but what I'm getting at over here is that, look, it could go either way. I've seen often when you see consolidation underneath resistance, that's actually a sign that resistance is about to break. Now, I truly don't have a bias right now, so I don't want to go ahead and try to develop one in yourself. I think that this could go either way, but I am making that observation. What about if you were to have a sell over here? If you're not already short on the Bitcoin, what happens if you were to take a sell over there? Look, if you do that, I would be very careful. I do expect high volatility. I do expect potential spiky behavior, and I do expect whipsaws. So know your levels in advance of what your trading plan is going to be. And then if you were to go ahead and trigger an entry, now you're vulnerable. Where's your stop loss if you were to take a sell entry over here? What are you doing? Is your stop loss right above there? Are you going to get out of the trade? If you got out of the trade, are you getting right back into the trade? Or are you more looking around the level up here to get into a long entry? Because of the nature of this particular moment, and what I mean by that is going back and looking at the chart we did yesterday, you could see that we could break out to the upside or downside because of the historical low volatility. A breakout to the upside or downside that has any type of follow through could lead to a tremendous move. So it's one that if you're a trader, you do want to be participating in. So you have to be able to, if you get part of your plan going into tomorrow's event, needs to be watching out for number one, not a clean break for the whipsaw, how you reposition yourself. And you have to take that further. Like, how are you managing your risk if you take a buy that gets stopped out and then you're entering the sell side? And then what happens if it reverses again to the upside? I'm not trying to give you a plan. I'm trying to help you get to work out your own plan, and then you'll be able to be more prepared going into tomorrow's event. And it's just way outside the norm. I want everyone to be really super focused. Spend today not watching price. Spend today looking at the chart, reviewing this video, and helping yourself develop your plan the way that you see it going into tomorrow's event. It's going to take you a lot further. Also want to take a look at Ethereum right now. Ethereum, by the way, has just been running flat. Post-merge is very weak. And you can see that we're already holding open short positions going into the event. Whether or not they follow through, get stopped out, I don't know. That's really neither here nor there. I want to zoom out over here and just take a look over here. And this is from the November high over here on Ethereum, and take a look at a couple of these waterfall events, and you can see at 18%. These are a lot cleaner on Ethereum, 23%. And then we have this one over here, another 32%. This one was running flat, making lower highs. It's very similar to it is right now. And you can see that big, massive 45, 50% move down on Ethereum. And then another one over here, 26%. And similar to this area over here where Bitcoin was running flat, right, over a couple of month period, making lower highs. Ethereum, well, no, it's a little different. It's not the same, right? Because it is running flat, but it's not making flat lows over there. It is making lower highs. It's making a series of them, and it's also making higher lows. And you can see that pendant that is really developed there on Ethereum. You could see if we draw it like, well, I'm going to omit this area over here and come off of like that, I guess. And then you could have, similar to Bitcoin, you could see that same exact pendant over here. And that could be the easiest plan for most. Whether you zoom out and take a look at Bitcoin over here, and you could say that, well, if you're doing it on the daily, that's the 3-day. It's a little cleaner on the daily maybe for you. Let me get rid of that volume. But I did want to point out over here that volume during this sideways action has been rising. In the past, when we looked at 2018, when price was going sideways before the collapse, you could see there was no volume. Volume dried out. Here, volume was heavier. And in that period, volume was drying down. That's different. Does that mean that price is going to break up instead of down? I don't think so. I don't think there's an edge either which way. Is a descending wedge that we're seeing right now, does it usually have some type of breakout to the upside? Yeah, I mean, it's a little flat for me. Descending wedges that look more sloping downwards, they tend to be have the expectation of a bullish outcome. This is running flat. I don't really see an edge, and I could hear it in my voice that there is no edge there. Just want everyone to be very careful, but could potentially the plan for some people, for many people, for you to be looking at, right, watching if there's a breakdown over here, right? Is that where you're going to get into the trade? And by the way, then your risk is if you were to break back above this trend line, that might want to be stop and reverse, because the way that I see it, whether price breaks to the upside or to the downside, you want to be involved in this. And from the very beginning of this video, I did note that a whipsaw could cause the most pain tomorrow, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that. So make sure that either you're willing to take X amount of trades, if that was a buy trade that then was stopped out, reversed to a sell trade, and then reversed again? Are you taking that third trade to the upside? I have not really seen a time and place where this type of pattern would go more than a double reversal, but anything could happen. It's the markets. Be careful out there. Stay strong. If you enjoyed this time together, please go ahead and hit the like button on your way out today. If you're new here, it's your first time spending time here at Conquering the Markets, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more. Everyone, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you tomorrow.